So I wanted to share with you guys my way of Saim-Hann formula, playing jet bike Eldar. And I feel like I need to put some restrictions on this podcast because this has been my understanding. This has been my vision in playing my Eldar Warhost. Certainly by no means is it the definition of how to play Saim-Hann or how to play Eldar. But the concept in representing this craft world in my mind, as some background, focusing heavily on jet bikes. Not as a skirmish unit, not as a last-minute objective grabber, not as a fast-moving side flanking type unit, although we're going to utilize the jet bikes as that, but as the primary thrust of the army, right? The first wave of units to go in and try to cause as much damage as possible. And building on that, I wanted everything to be meched up. Everything is flying. You know, that narrative of flying out of the webway portal, jet bikes, Vipers, wave serpents, fire prisms, skimmers, everything. Now, certainly Rangers exist, and certainly Wraith Lords exist. There's other units in the aspects. Well, the aspects, they might be on foot if they're Reapers, or they might be meched up. But I found in playing, besides this self-imposed vision limitation of playing the army that way, what I did find is that there was a lack of compatibility. And what I mean by that is having most of the units fast and meched up, or jet bike heavy. Any units that were on foot, my opponent could possibly drive away my jet bikes by throwing really, really powerful units at them and forcing me to make a choice. Stick around and fight, and if the dice are with me, I'll win that exchange, but my bikes are going to be so mauled. Where am I really going to be? What did I really gain? That expression of when two tigers fight, one dies and the other one is maimed for life. What did you really gain? So normally what I would do is I would zip away. I would redeploy. I'd go over some terrain or fly away. So if you chase my jet bikes away, the units that are on foot, the slower units, they can be isolated. They can be taken out. Now essentially I have less units on the table. So I found in experimenting with this hybrid mix, where you're going, maybe 80, 90% of the points on jet bikes and Vipers, skimmer equivalents versus ground units. The ground units were too easily isolated. So again, not that you can't play it, but this was kind of the evolution in how the layering of my Saim-Hann Warhost works. The second kind of internal formula, and I don't think we've ever covered this. This is kind of the secret sauce in one of my 40K equations. This idea, and it's still in fluctuation a little bit with 8th, even at this point, but generally I would judge the overall effectiveness of a unit kind of to this. If the model was 10 points or less, then I don't need to support it. By support, 2 units working in tandem, that would be a definition, or a unit that is buffed by psychic powers or army-wide rules, something that gives it a push beyond the basic unit, maybe some sort of bubble boost on there. 10 points or less, I don't care. That's not to say I'm not going to support the unit. That's not to say it can't benefit from it. But a perfect example outside of the Eldar Codex spectrum, Chaos Cultists. Yeah, if you boost them, if you use them in certain situations, they become even more fearsome. But for the point cost per model, who really cares? I can take so many. I have massive critical mass. GW loves that because you're just going to buy models after models. A single Gaunt. Yeah, you could support it with other units on there, warriors and things like that, but do you really need it? If it dies, you got like 70, 80 more, 60 more, 20 more, 40 more, something like that. So 10 or less, I'm not going to pay too much attention to the unit. The idea would be quantity is its own quality. When we get between 10 and 30 points a model, and I know that's kind of a big spread, but 10 to 30, now I'm investing a significant number of points per model, and those models are going to make up a unit. I need to make sure that they essentially wipe out the target, which means I get the jump on you, in this case with my speed or positioning. In theory, I realize it's very much chess, very much cat and mouse, cloak and dagger. I'm trying to get you, you're trying to get me, but I'm trying to win the exchange where I can roll up and get to point blank sooner, quicker, faster than you can. And I need to wipe you out. I need to take you out because at that point level, that mid-band per unit, I really can't. have you shoot back at me and take losses on there. So I need other units to support it. Now, once we get higher than that in points, now in theory, this is where we get into alpha units and Death Stars. In theory, the unit's so jacked up and so powerful that it's just going to wreck face unsupported. You know, a massive blob of Death Company pouring out, screaming at you. Yeah, you buff it up. Yeah, you do certain things. It's going to be even more effective, but it works on its own. This is the converse, the inversion of quantity is quality. Now it's quality over quantity on there. And with the jet bikes, they fall in that middle band. So this means I need to have something to back it up. Wolf packing. This idea of I have 3 layers. Now, by layers, that doesn't mean like stuff is at the front of the board, stuff is in the middle of the board, stuff is at the end of the board. It's this kind of decision tree of how the Saim-Hann war host works. I'm looking to move to the center of the table, and I'm looking to radiate out from the center of the table. So this way I always have somewhere to go, kind of like a wheel. The center of the table is the rotation point on there. I'm trying to stay away from the bulk of your stuff, and I'm trying to isolate some units. That's the idea. But when it comes down to shooting, I'm going to move up 1 jet bike unit. And within range of that jet bike unit, again, trying to take into account for cover and line of sight blocking and where your other units are and potential shooting arcs on your turn and next turn, I'm going to be looking at making sure my Viper group is in range. So for every jet bike group, I have a Viper group. This way, the bikes can shoot, and if I wipe out your unit, great. If I don't, the Vipers can add that extra volume of dice onto it and wipe you out. And it might not just be 1-to-1. I might have 2 jet bike groups close together that move up and shoot at your big squad of tactical Marines. Then if I'm doing that, I'm going to have 2 Viper groups behind them backing that up. So first layer, jet bikes. Second layer is going to be those Vipers. Third layer, and this is kind of the floating layer, fire prisms. They're there if the dice work against me, or you make some insane saves, or just something outside of the jet bike with Viper support equation doesn't quite work. And now, again, I'm jeopardizing that first layer of jet bikes. Fire Prism's going to lay down the dice on there. So it's this jet bike plus Viper plus Fire Prism or Wave Serpent with stuff inside, depending on whatever I feel like playing in the moment. Sometimes Guardians, sometimes Dire Avengers or Aspects, things like that. Working 1, 2, 3. That is the Saim-Hann equation. That is my way of Saim-Hann. And again, it's built on this point formula, which, it could be like instead of 10 points, it could start at 15. There's some slight tweaks there, I think, in 8th, which I'm still exploring. But that answers the question of whether I care about losing the units or not. And it's not that I don't care, but I don't have to spend the points worrying about supporting it because the models are so cheap, 10 or less. That mid-band where now we're invested. So I need a little bit of support. I need something to work together to make sure I get the jump on you and wipe you out. And in theory, above that, I should be so jacked up it doesn't matter. Although you can make an Alpha or a Death Star even better in that third band by bringing in other units to kind of alpha the Alpha on there.